All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Welcome. This is another edition of the New Jersey City University EdTech Fall Webinar Series. And we're so happy that you could join us this evening. We have a great session. And our presenter today is Mr. Isaiah Gomez, who has been in education since 2007 as an executive director in early childhood education. He's been a science teacher, girls and boys basketball coach, and technology integration specialist. He holds a teaching certificate in K-6, middle school science certificate, and supplemental instruction for K-8 math and reading. Mr. Gomez has administrative and leadership capacity and has served in those capacities in Catholic public and charter schools within urban public settings, working with a diverse student body, including international and English language learners. He holds a bachelor's degree in sociology from Ramapo College of New Jersey, a master's of arts degree in urban education from New Jersey City University, and is presently conducting his doctoral dissertation in the Educational Technology Leadership Program at New Jersey City University. He hopes that his academic and professional experience can bring a positive environment where all students, faculty, and staff can thrive. Without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Gomez. If you have any questions, please write them in the chat, and periodically there'll be interactive stuff you guys will get to do, but we'll save them for the end and I will read them for our presenters a chance to answer everything. So feel free to join us with questions throughout and we will definitely address it. Thank you so much, Mr. Gomez.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Bienvenidos. Everyone, as Dana has mentioned, I'm Isaiah Gomez, your presenter. Thank you for the great introduction, by the way. It's just before I begin, I would want to give a little brief bio by myself. I'd like to shout out my family and those who have, been very supportive. And during this segment, I'd like to give a little bit about you guys. And you'll see as we go forward. And just a warning, I will be asking questions from you as well. I ask for your participation. This session is a little bit interactive session, so I will be taking notes. Could I get some of your feedback, some of your input on this topic? So without further ado, let's begin. As David mentioned, here's just the bio, just briefly. Full name Isaiah Emmanuel Gomez, or Emmanuel, if you put the Spanish accent to it. Born March 4th, to parents Victor and Adriana Gomez, born in the Dominican Republic. And I mentioned it because they were also English language learners. They went to school here at middle school and in high school. So I also got some of my inspiration from them. The second of 8 children. I'm the second born, 3 sisters, 4 brothers. Currently, I live with my beautiful wife and 7 children in New Jersey. And Dana has expressed all the rest about me. So let's go forward. All right, so one thing that I really like to do is, and this is part of the whole differentiated professional development, is finding out what is your mission, what is your career mission. And before we begin, I want to take a look inward. And what is my mission and my purpose for doing this? And my mission is to establish an environment that is academically enriched, positive, empowering, encouraging for families, students, and staff, so they can all flourish and elevate to a level of success and beyond. Now, I know we're jumping right into it, but I turn to you for the next 2 minutes to think about what is your purpose in education or your career? What is your mission? What is your vision? And if you have time, then you could write it down. After that, we will come back and I'll ask a few of you, if you would like to share some of your thoughts. So we'll take about 2 minutes and then we'll give you some time. And then I'll start asking and open the floor to you guys. Let's just go back to say you can see my mission. You have about 30 more seconds. Fifteen more seconds. Okay, so, all right, so welcome back. As we come back, I'm going to restate the task that I asked you to think about and possibly write down or to internalize. It was, what is your mission? What is it you do what you do? And what is your reason for doing this? And I stated that my mission is to establish an environment that is academically enriched, positive, empowering, and encouraging for families, students, staff, so they can flourish and elevate to a level of success and beyond. Now, I'm opening up the floor. If anyone is willing to want to stay, at least one or two people can state, what is their mission? What is their vision for being an educator, for being a teacher? See Christine, she has her hand up.
Go ahead, Christine. You want to join us with an answer?
Yes, it's the reason I became a teacher. Actually, it's to change the financial legacy of my students. I left, as an alternate route candidate. And so the reason I became a teacher really was because I saw a lot of adults who did not manage their finances effectively. And if they wound up in some trouble, of course, it takes yourself some time to get out of it. So if we can prevent the next generation from making the mistakes I've made and the mistakes a lot of other people have made, I think, it goes a long way to demystifying finance and, making it a topic that, can be talked about and they can change your financial legacy. And when I say it, I get goosebumps and I hope they do too, because they really can with just a couple simple changes.
Thank you so much. That was very specific and very powerful, because we all need our finances. We all need help with our finances, and it's great to have students who are, enriched and coming with that knowledge, and that they search for that knowledge. So thank you so much for sharing. Is there anyone else before we move forward? No? Okay. So I'll move right ahead. Thank you so much, Christine, for
sorry, I want to share.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. My mission is to empower and educate scholars who may struggle academically due to language barriers, and to encourage and support these students as well as their families so they can become successful, responsible citizens.
Thank you so much. And that's so important to become respectful and responsible. That's one of the things that, sometimes is missing when you go to some schools. It's very difficult. Thank you so much. All right, so just to honor time, we'll move forward, and there'll be more time to share with the other ideas. Thank you so much. Okay, so I gave this opportunity to think about where we want to go. Having this vision, having this mission, it gives us a sense of purpose. And we should all have a mission we are striving for. It helps us to find our element. And when we find our element, it makes getting to our goal that much easier. And moving forward, we're going to discuss why we are here tonight. Okay, so the reason why we are here tonight is because we want to talk about how we can integrate technology. And throughout this session, I'm going to list 4 or 5 key factors of technology integration. That's going to be one of our first objectives. The next is we're going to identify misconceptions of professional development, how the teacher's attitudes and perception towards the use of technology affects the integration. Third, explain how the differentiated professional development model provides structured plan to measure growth based on teachers and technology use. And four, we're going to discuss what is the differentiated professional development model's ongoing task or process for providing direct support on a weekly basis. So moving on, we have looked at what we have inside, what is our purpose, and now we looked at what is our objectives, what are our goals. And with this, we can now look forward and what we need to be successful as integrators of technology. So one of the first things is that we have to have an alignment. All right, we have to have our missions established with particular goals for us to accomplish. Next, satisfying these goals will bring us near to fulfilling our mission. Our actions must align with our goals if we need to fulfill them. And how do we align our action and goals? Okay, we need to grow and develop. We all need development in some way, shape, or form. In all areas of life, we need to develop. And professional development is necessary. Professional development allows for professionals to require a sort of training to perform their task as the best way possible. Professional development is education for professionals that are required to perform well in their jobs in all tasks. They are informative, they provide strategies, and professional development is the only way educators, like all of us here, can learn so that we're able to be better at our performance and to raise student achievement, which is the end goal, as well as letting them get that education, that knowledge that they can use later on in life. And as professionals, you know, we're asked to bring this knowledge in a certain instruction with a certain pedagogy, so that the students are able to, you know, grasp onto the information. So as I mentioned before, I'm going to provide some more opportunity now to one or two of you who have had a professional development within your school time. And I want to get your experience on it. What did you think about it? And what did you take away from it? So right now, I'm going to open the floor up. If you would like to speak, please state your name, occupation, and your experience.
So I'll share. My name is Vanessa Ventura. I'm an ESL teacher, grades K to 8 from University Heights Charter School located in Newark, New Jersey. My experience with professional development is that it's more geared toward general education teachers. So, well, I'm the only ESL teacher in my district, so it's kind of interesting because I have a whole caseload of students, but I do find it beneficial, even though it is geared towards general education teachers, because I get to learn about the curriculum, as well as what teaching materials they use. But I would also like to get professional development geared towards my field of expertise.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Anyone else?
I would like to, hi, my name is Melissa Garcia. I am a 4th and 5th grade bilingual teacher in Passaic. I've been teaching for 13 years. I first started teaching in the Bronx at a charter school, and then now I teach in New Jersey. I can relate to what she said. As a bilingual ESL teacher, I noticed a lot of professional development leave out my language learners. It's so frustrating when they're introducing new programs and they're all excited about, let's incorporate this and it's gonna work. And every time I ask, is this available in Spanish? They say no. And it's discouraging and disheartening, because at the end of the day, I work in a community that is Latino and African-American. Why are we ignoring our student population, the students that we serve? So I am all about equity and access. So I could definitely relate to what she's saying. A lot of these PDs do forget our language learners, and it's very frustrating.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I definitely, could relate with that sentiment and, having that frustration as well. Okay, one more and then we'll move forward.
My name is Carrie Murphy. I teach in a Title I district. I'm a non-native speaker. However, I am the only Spanish teacher in my middle school. I feel like most of the professional development, it's like it comes too late. Like, we figure things out for our students. We develop stuff for our students that we've been doing all along. And then comes the flavor of the month. It's like they want us to learn things that we've been doing all along, but now they give it a name. And I feel like if our voice was being heard all along, then these students would have better opportunity and there would be better programs provided for them. Right now, like, everyone's promoting like SEI, like sheltered English instruction. And it's like, I've been trying to teach a lot of the people within my building how to better provide for those English language learners, not just so much for Spanish, but in general. Like, you can't just sit them in a corner on a computer and hope that Google Translate is going to work for them. And I just feel like we're at such a disadvantage right now because there's not a push to better support our ELL kids.
Thank you so much, Karen. And then I definitely understand that. And that's one of the things that I will touch upon is how professional development should be differentiated for teachers based on their workload, based on their skills that they have with the computer and with the curriculum, and then adjusted in a need to case basis. And we'll touch upon that as we move forward. So thank you so much for all who were sharing, and let's continue. So as you all know, with your experiences, today's students are struggling with their writing, with their reading, especially students that are classified as English language learners. And you all express that. And instead of getting better, there's a lot of questions being answered. A lot of questions being stated and not answered. And the academic gap is widening steadily in reading and math scores, because math does have some portion of reading that's involved. Yes, they can do the formula basis, but the math problems have been suffering because of the reading and writing. And this is how teachers feel. And you could raise your hand with sentiments. Teachers are overwhelmed. There's some frustration, and they need assistance to close this gap. And you guys have touched upon that with your experiences with the professional development. And research indicates that this is a result of inadequate reinforcement at home. Even at home, during the early childhood, because many of the parents, have difficulty speaking themselves. And many of the parents are either working 2 jobs or, very busy with other children. And the study aims to explore the idea of using portable devices features, such as you mentioned, speech to text or applications like iTranslate or Duolingo in early childhood. However, the technology is a means to differentiate classroom instruction, but the instruction has to be taught. There has to be ways of implementing this instruction in a differentiated way. And teachers need to be supported in this process. And the question is, how can this be done? And, according to research, technology that has shown to support students in the classrooms. All right, technology is, part of our lives every day. And studies showed that when incorporating the technology with goals and objectives, positive benefits are shown with student engagement and instructional practices. The question is, how does one integrate technology? Okay, so integrating technology comes in a few factors, which I mentioned before. Okay, the first factor is infrastructure. The next is technology. The next is sufficient technological tools, then effective professional development, which is an external factor, and then finally teacher efficacy and teachers' perception, which is an internal factor that affects technology integration in P to K, that means pre-kindergarten to 12th grade schools. And the first 3, infrastructure, technology, and sufficient technological tools, or something that comes from the Board of Education, comes from a superintendent. More tangible factors are effective professional development, which could be done either by your master teacher or your principal in-house, or some type of content lead within your building. And the other is the teacher themselves, the eternal factor, teacher efficacy, and we'll get to more on that. How they perceive technology could be a factor that's blocking the actual integration because they just don't believe in it. There's just no thought that, okay, you gave me this Chromebook, you gave me this laptop, but I don't know how to use it, so it's going to stay in that corner, and I'm going to work with what I got. And that's what happens. So I'm going to go a little bit into it. So I'm going to talk to a little more about infrastructure and the other factors. So infrastructure, there's a big change occurring in K through 12 schools. And this is the school district and boards move to acquire the new style of classrooms and instruction focused on remote learning. Previously, schools tried to incorporate the use of computers through computer classes or computer clubs. But now that integration was put on the fast track, via COVID and pandemic. To succeed, we had to move remote learning or computer use must be supported with a strong foundation in technology, particularly network infrastructure. Okay, this must occur if we wish to build that so-called 21st century classroom. By focusing on the right technology and network management, security from the right vendor, school districts can prepare their classrooms for tomorrow's network needs. However, infrastructure is a factor that is overlooked when making the decisions to purchase technology and how they will be utilized in learning environment. It is like making sure the windshield is clean, cleared in the car. We don't think about the windshield unless we're in the car about to drive, And when we do think about it, there's a snowstorm, there's ice, and then we're there for 20 minutes breaking off the ice, right? That's the same thing with this infrastructure. When making these decisions, certain aspects should be considered, such as the range of the devices, duration of device purpose. Taking the time to think about collaborative classrooms require not only furniture being grouped, but also strong Wi-Fi signal that assures students who are remote learning or the teachers who are remotely teaching are being given the support needed. Infrastructure can affect Wi-Fi connection and limited internet access to technological devices, especially in rural schools or older building schools or schools that are in impoverished areas without the proper power voltage to supply multiple tech devices. Last year, many schools suffered because Wi-Fi was not considered. And in many schools, it wasn't found out until the students were sitting in the classroom or sitting at home in their desks and the lessons were being taught when the Wi-Fi was going out. Hence, school districts will greatly benefit from focusing on the best network management tools for their systems to further prepare classrooms for tomorrow's network requirements. Okay, the next factor to help integrate technology is inadequate technology. So if we step back and we look at the integration of technology from a perspective of a learning theory, integration of technology usage in the classroom serves a constructivist, right? That's kind of like building, and social cultural principles. According to the constructivist view, learners create a knowledge as a result of their interactions with the environment, building on existing knowledge and dependent upon the relevance of the content or instructional activities in their own lives. From the social culture perspective, technology provides a platform and the tools to engage in numerous media with other individuals and groups beyond immediate reach of the learner. This is obvious need for the students to be prepared for technology. However, due to limited funds or budgeting, or like some people said, people finding out at the last minute, the resources are not provided or they're provided inadequately for every student. In the student's mobile device survey national report, it was found that 14% of elementary students attended school with a one-to-one initiative. That's 14%. However, most students' access to technology is through a computer lab, 37%, or shared in the classroom. 62% of students want to use technology and more in the classroom, But the reality is that the resources are just not available. Some schools do have this BYOD, which is bring your own device. And let's assume that students have the devices to fill the gaps where school lack the resources. However, not many students bring in their own devices. And if they do, it's just not compatible with the software. The opportunity to engage broadly and deeply with virtual environments made possible by technology continues to lag in education. The particular applications for learners as they create knowledge for themselves are numerous and growing. And as evidenced by example, for example, the internet search on the subject, you'll find various of topics. As districts continually move toward the 21st century classroom, it is important to bridge this gap of utilization and adequate resources. All right, and now we're going to look at sufficient professional development, and this goes to one of the points that one of you guys have also mentioned. If you have a question, you can just put it in the chat, and then we'll talk about that. Thank you so much. Even with the adequate technology access, effective professional development remains a reason that makes it difficult to increase the level of technology integration in the classroom. Little is understood about what these experiences might look like for teachers, in the trenches, on the ground. During implementation of technology integrated professional development, researcher indicates that simply providing teachers with professional development and then sending them off related to using technology is not translated to higher levels of integration. Actually, it's only when they are provided the knowledge, the skills, the resources, and support, they will then integrate technology in the curriculum to maximize its effects on teaching and learning. However, schools are providing technology-related professional development that is falling flat. And technology integration was the second most common topic of professional development, right behind the specific content areas. But of those that participated in the training, right, 59% of the 67% of teachers that had the training received 8 hours or fewer of technology integration. So now they're given this Chromebook, they're given this iPad, and now they have the daunting task of choosing what is the appropriate software, what is the right curriculum, how do I use it, assessing the children. All this had to be done without any support or any system of learning. This leads to the thought of, is it really worth it? And the low self-efficacy from teachers and their perception. All right, so self-efficacy is the belief that a person can perform a task to achieve the desired outcome. It is an essential concept that affects how you choose to interact with society and your surroundings. Researchers in education focus on the principles of self-efficacy involving performance, accomplishments, vicarious experiences, verbal persuasion, and physiological stress. It is predicted that digital classrooms, which involve many technological devices, will improve student success levels. However, without effective technological integration, it is unreasonable to claim it is possible to reach these goals without the necessary online technologies of self. And this is what we have to go through. Are we putting the right amount of weight? Are we integrating diverse resources of information concerning their capabilities and then regulate their choice behavior? Okay, this has to all be put into their account because we have control over what we do, all right, over our behavior. We don't have control over the outcome of the use. There is a significant correlation to a teacher's use in technology in the classroom with self-efficacy, right? Due to high demand of teachers' achievement and accountability, if a teacher feels that the technology has a positive outcome, they will use it. But if the teacher feels that they won't get anything out of this technology, then they will not use it. Another point that some teachers have come across is that students feel, elementary students particularly, feel that they know more about the technology. And in some cases, this may feel true to the teacher. And this also adds to the low self-efficacy. And despite increasing access to technology in schools, teachers are usually portrayed as hesitant users, not wanting to use the technology in the classroom. They perceive the effort needed to learn the new technology, and particularly its value, to be insignificant. And consideration is whether they use it or not. This is consistent with other research that is found in teachers' readiness or lack thereof. Teachers are not prepared in order to deliver the usage of this technology within their classroom and within their curriculum. Teachers also perceive technology integration negatively due to the amount of time it takes to integrate the curriculum. Through additional training and planning, technology integration requires preparation, classroom management practices, a demand for attention that is not normally spent in those areas. It is easier to remain with status quo. So sometimes you hit this brick wall and you're like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna just stop right here. I'm not gonna use this computer. The students are just playing games on it. Let's just focus on paper interactions. Let's just do that. And many times, research has shown that using these devices for English language learners is a big help, but it's not a big help when it's not used effectively for the students and for the teachers. So I wanted to introduce this differentiated professional development. You got to use what you have, right? The goal is to differentiate professional development, is to create collaboration, reflection on teacher pedagogy, targeted on the areas of instruction. Differentiated professional development can help develop a capacity for change by assessing each teacher's ability, collaborating and discussing topics in small group sessions, while concurrently learning through classroom-based coaching. So each of us have had a teacher coach at some point in the beginning of the year. There is no reason to say that if you had a teacher coach delivering your regular instruction, that you should not have a teacher coach to help assist you in implementing this technology within your curriculum, within your instruction as well. So one of the big quotes, and if you've seen the movie, I think it was called King Richard. I didn't watch the movie. I should have started watching it today, but this quote was mentioned, and it was just by coincidence that it was the same quote. And it says, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I'm going to give a brief introduction about this person here. If you don't know, is the late Kobe Bryant, who passed away back in January 2020. He was a famous basketball player. He passed away with his daughter and some other folks in a helicopter crash. God rest their souls. But in this interview, he speaks about the importance of growth and how one needs to know where they are and what they need to work on in order to move forward. They need a plan. So we're going to watch this video, and then I would like to hear your responses.
Doing things like that. And I say, listen, you know the answer to that. I don't know. Like, you know what makes you uncomfortable when you play. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing for kids nowadays is that they want to rely on coaches too much and workout guys, you know, which is fine to have them help you work out, but you have to tell them what you need, right? You have to be able to say, okay, I feel uncomfortable with this. And if you don't know, then you're not as prepared as you should be, right? You need to know what your strengths and weaknesses are first. And then, you know, I can tell you some of the things, some of the rhythmic things, or some of the exercises, or how much repetition you need to be doing on certain things. But you got to know your.
Okay, so you have to know your weakness. That was the main theme about this. And you have to know where you want to go. And when you identify this weakness, then this possibility, you can put a plan together to grow in that area. So now I'm going to open up the floor to see what is your response to this about, you know, failing to have a plan will mean that you plan to fail. And what are your thoughts on this video, on this brief clip?
Okay. I think that's one of the reasons we have lesson plans, is to, you know, we have to plan ahead of time what we're going to teach the students. So another interesting way to put it is when you assess the students, you look at what their strengths and weaknesses are first in order to scaffold their learning and give them the knowledge that they need. That's how we meet their needs.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And this same idea of growth that we use on the students to, okay, we take an assessment, we see, all right, they're not proficient in such and such categories. All right, let's adjust our lesson plans to, this standard with this category, this standard with this category. Now let's add more classes and to help and support for those areas and to help that student get better. This same thought process, there's no reason why it cannot be put into play for teachers' growth as well. And building this plan of growth is important. The same thing could be done instead with students, can be done with teachers, and to strengthen their skills to grow. Go to the next slide. Professional development in this framework, it helps to establish what areas, and it's not sort of like a grade. Some teachers get a little afraid, oh, I'm poor in this area, I'm weak in this area. But in order to deliver your instruction to students in an effective way, and to use the technology effectively, you have to know what areas could you improve on in order to move forward. Okay, so the professional development framework that I'll be using, or that has been used for this, is model designed by Dr. Theodore J. Kopcha. And the model of this professional development, it will be known as the Kopcha model. So if you hear me mention that, it's because I named it after the doctor who kind of designed it, and that's Dr. Theodore J. Kopcha, which initiates a system-based mentoring model of integrated technology that follows a research-focused approach. Now, some professional developments are one day and still will not sustain the necessary skill to differentiate the instruction to teachers, and will need to have questions answered and troubleshoot complicated technology. The combination of questions and different scenarios the teacher may encounter will produce more problems than solutions. Instead, a coach will support teachers and supplement the professional development with daily, weekly, or monthly interaction. The goal of differentiated professional development is to create a collaboration and reflection on teacher pedagogy and targeted areas of instruction. So right here, we're looking at the TJ Kopcha model. And if you see here, this model is just kind of like a diagram for those who like to see things with more of an image. And you'll begin with the needs analysis. What's a needs analysis? Well, I'll show you a version of it. But a needs analysis is something that you do in order to take an assessment, not to grade you, but more or less to see what areas you do well in and what areas you can improve on when using technology. Then based off this, we will take this data and then we will sit down, like the coach will sit down with the teacher and say, what is your vision on using this technology? Why do you want to use it? What is the purpose of using this Chromebook? Why do you want to use this iPad? What is the goals? And how do we get to your vision by establishing goals? Once you do that, then you jump into the 4 stages. And the Kopcha model progress teachers through specific stages of technology integration to increase support toward student-centered learning. These stages allow the mentor to suggest several strategies to integrate technology, establish a culture of technology integration and model technology use, and create teacher leaders. The Kopcha model also assists the teacher with overcoming specific barriers which obstruct teachers from integrating technology effectively. The border of time refrains the teacher from developing a lesson geared toward integrating new technology and learning the latest technology. Through this Kopcha model, teachers can dispel barriers through learning new, robust instructional practices that are student-centered. Some critical elements of the Kopcha model are mentoring and the system-based model. Mentoring and technology integration has been founded to overcome many barriers. All right, the new technology allows the mentor to support teachers that they are teaching. The system-based model has a mentor in the primary approach, considering the needs of all stakeholders. So now, before I like to jump, into the meat and talking about each stage of the Kopcha model, I want to hear, have anyone here has, by raising a hand, or if they want to say yes, has anyone had an experience where they had a coach in which they provided support and feedback? And if they did, how was that experience?
My name is Sebastian. I work in higher education, and I've been somewhat of a coach to a lot of the faculty first using technology. I would say initially what happens is there's a false idea of it taking away their brick and mortar experience, and that it's like it's for a younger generation of faculty in some parts, but in most cases, after the conversation is had and we look at the full aspects of it, they have a brighter idea of it. One example is I had a faculty member who taught for about 40 years, and he had to move into the online environment, not for a fully online course, but just using technology in the classroom because he was still printing out his syllabus to give to students. So after we had the conversation, I said, what is it that you're trying to do? And how do we make it easier for you in the long run? He explained that process. And then we looked at the options that were available from the university. And once we built that out for that first semester, we tested it with the students to see if, what they thought about it, what they enjoyed, what they didn't. And with that positive feedback, we were able to even enhance the course for the next semester. And he's been one of the proponents for, I would say, this professional learning moving forward after that point.
Thank you so much, Sebastian. And your experience actually is a great example. And, and it kind of relates to this model in which, you had a need, you analyze a vision and goal, and then you had pretty much the whole process where you had teacher preparation, curricular reform, and then community of practice where you got the feedback from the students, and then you were able to evaluate and revise, and then do it again the next semester, which is a great example. And what is this model doing? This differentiated professional development in which you have this coach that is assisting the teacher and moving forward. And thank you so much, Sebastian, again. And just for honor time, I'm going to move ahead. The first stage of the Kopcha model is the initial stage. It's the setup. So after the needs analysis, after you set your goals, your vision, then the teacher is introduced to the technology and how to use it and why. The basic nuts and bolts of how to use this technology and what are the inner workings and defects of it. Okay. Then the next stage, once the teacher becomes more adept into using it, then they go to the next stage, which is stage 2, teacher preparation, which means the teacher is given strategies to instruct the student-centered lessons. And at this stage, the mentor spends more time troubleshooting and fixing any technical issues. And the main focus is system and culture. For example, having a Chromebook cart, students need to know how to charge it, where it's located, if something happens, what is the policy and procedure. All that has to be established. And it has to be student-centered. The student has to be able to complete this. And especially with ELLs, they will have to know because the language barrier is there at times, and they may not be able to communicate with the teacher effectively in order to get what they need. If they understand the policy and procedure and how to get the technology and how to use it effectively, then it's easier for them. Stage 3, the main focus in this stage is developing a curriculum. Now, the teacher should be able to troubleshoot any issues on their own They should be able to develop a system where technology is accessible to all students and staff that are helping. And the coach will refine any techniques since technology has increased. So the coach will add more and refine this curriculum with the teacher in partnership. Just like Sebastian mentioned, they put something together and then they prepare it for the following semester. In stage 4 is the community of practice. This stage requires the mentor to focus on employing the school's faculty to lead the technology integration and to move the mentor out of a process that will eventually happen. So the whole point of the coach is to step away, right? It's to step out of the process eventually. Once the teacher begins teaching, the coach aims to phase out part-time and eventually fade out completely. In the mechanic focus, the coach relays any current issues to the faculty and directs them to troubleshoot their own problem. And this is the whole model of it, so that the teacher is self-reliant and he or she works with the community of practice, those who are working with them, their colleagues, their students, family, and support to influence or integrate this technology. Now, there was one portion that I touched upon, which was the evaluate and revise model. Each stage in the COPTA model is designed to go through a process of evaluating the growth and revising the plan. So this has to be done in order to know where the teacher is. So if the teacher is maybe needs a little bit more work on how to troubleshoot some type of networking problem, then they will go back and then see if they can strengthen that area, get some more resources, get some more information, have some more dialogue with the coach and how to do that effectively. Now, anyone can use any tools, and one of the tools that is used and has been researched and to assess teachers. Now, an assessment is not a grade; is more or less something that is done to know, okay, what areas should we have professional development on? What areas should we have some type of training on, or we should meet about something? This assessment helps the coach to know and the teacher to know what areas they should work on. And this is called a TSAT. And I could share this link with you, or I could share a copy of this, or you can go to yourself. It's called the Massachusetts TSAT. And there's many others too, but it's the ability to assess the knowledge and the skill of the teacher in using the technology. Okay. So there are some key points to this, to the COPTA model. And the first is that the coaching is teacher-centered. We need to know what is the teacher knows, what are they capable of, and how can they get better. Coaching is based on growth and assessment data. So the teacher only grows if there's some data based upon it. So if the teacher is doing well and is showing that they have some growth, then they can move to the next portion. Then we can have some tangible data showing that the teacher has grown. Coaching is reinforced with individual coaching and peer group coaching. Okay, so I'm going to save the thoughts and feedback for later on at the end, so that we can honor the time. All right, so one aspect of this model, and some of you have mentioned that you don't have enough time to get together, is that the differentiated professional development focus on teachers incorporating student-centered technology. And one of the things that a teacher needs in order is the guidance and support and data that pinpoint areas where the teacher can focus their growth on. So one way is individual coaching. So any teacher needs that one-to-one. They need to have places to sit down with their coach to set goals and then assess, are they meeting these goals? Or do they have to go back and reevaluate and plan new goals? The coach will administer the TSAT tool to assess the technology needs. The coach will determine the goals in partnership with the teacher. The teacher is like, listen, I want to scale lower. I don't think I'm ready to move up and use that type of technology yet. Or the teacher can say, listen, I'm ready to deliver this. I have a whole curriculum set up. Then that can be adjusted by the coach. The teacher will choose the appropriate technology they will use. So it's not thrown upon them, right? So if they don't need to use Chromebooks and they need to use, an iPad, or they need to use some other device besides that, then it's to their appropriate use. If the teacher doesn't believe, if the self-efficacy is not on the technology that it is purposeful and is useful, then using it doesn't help anyone. Also, the coach provides the observation. And now during this time, sometimes observation is a little bit difficult. Sometimes they may record. And recording also serves a good purpose, because then you could also share that recording with the teacher and receive feedback from the coach. The other big thing is peer group meetings. When you meet with the group, such as we are now, and giving feedback and interactions, you're able to hear the other person's successes, hear the other person's growth areas, and it provides insight as to what each person needs to do. Maybe you have a plan that worked for you, that may work for them. So peer group meetings does help, and this is incorporated in the COPCHA model. About every 2 to 3 weeks within the model's usage, the teacher, the coach will sit down with the group of teachers who are using the same type of technology, and they will come together and it's just give their experiences, and then they will get feedback from each other. All right, so just to recap on this session, I want to list the things that we talked about, and we listed some key factors of technology integration. We identified the misconceptions of professional development and how the teacher's attitudes and perception towards the use of technology affects the integration. We explained how differentiated professional development model provides a structured plan to measure growth based on teacher technology use. And lastly, we discussed what is differentiated professional development model and the process for providing direct support on a weekly basis. So at this moment, I'm going to open it up to any questions and comments that you may have.
We have a lot of great comments that are in, no current questions at this time, but a lot of great comments in the chat. So at this time, if you'd like, I'd invite you to come and share your thought as we begin to close this session and offer some feedback in that sense.
Okay, so I'll just read off from Murphy. It says, I like so many of us plan and fail to do due to lack of support in tech. Mr. Fullen explains a lot of lies in preparation. Completely agree with this. Proper preparation prevents poor performance, and was told to me by a college professor of mine over and over again. Agreed. Some good comments here. Murphy also said, it's always good to have a plan. I always maintain a very detailed lesson plan, but it doesn't have to be good. I tell my students that as well. You have to always be ready and adaptable. And I lead my school and SEI without being formally trained in the area or in ESL, which happens to many teachers. You know, many teachers are put in that position, and sometimes most of the time it affects students because they're not given that instruction. And having a professional development, particularly a differentiated one, which that the teacher is getting all the information as a need to know basis and based on their knowledge, that makes it so much better for the students. Thank you so much, Murphy.
Do you mind if I add something also, Mr. Gomez?
Sure.
I love the part that you brought up about Kobe, because he had, you know, how many times we feel vulnerable in a situation and we don't realize that that's a perfect way to identify an area of growth where we feel vulnerable or we feel uncomfortable about something that comes up. And I think that's great, because as we rely on ourselves as professionals, as we move through professional development, only so much is provided for us. So we really do need to have that honesty moment with ourselves to be able to identify those feelings of discomfort or just something that's just not normal to us, and identify that as in an open-hearted way, and be easy with ourselves by saying, okay, I think I need to grow here. Don't be too hard on yourself. It's okay if you feel this way, but this is an area, let's pursue it. Let's grow and stretch a little bit. And that never feels good initially, but eventually we get there. So I really love that comment. Thank you for sharing that video with us.
I would like to add, I agree with what she said, because for example, me, the reason why I actually decided to take this route to pursue a doctorate degree in educational technology was because after the pandemic, I was one of those teachers very hesitant with technology because I wasn't educated throughout my student teaching experience. So once the pandemic hit, I realized the importance of, incorporating technology, and I knew I had to get with the program. So I feel that pushing yourself and just really being honest and with the situation that you're in and knowing what you're capable of, and just, just again pushing yourself, like she was saying, to better your craft as an educator is extremely important, especially now with the pandemic, because we're still all trying to adapt to the changes.
Thank you so much. Excellent. I see Murphy hand was raised for one more comment.
Yeah, I feel like the hardest part for me is, as a middle school teacher, I'm still considered an elective. So technology seems to trickle down to me in the last portions. I had just gotten my first Chromebook cart after 6 years, right when the pandemic hit. And now, because we were a Title I district, a lot of these kids didn't have access to technology. We had to kind of like shuffle out all our Chromebooks. So now I don't have a Chromebook again. So where our school has always pushed for very technology-based assignments, projects, etc., and I'm completely converted to Google. I don't have access to that anymore. So it's been really hard, but I feel like one of the biggest things you have to do is not just only advocate for your students, but advocate for your own needs as well, to be able to be a better teacher for your students.
Thank you so much, Murphy. I definitely agree.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much. I think this is great. If there are no more questions, I think we're just coming up on time. So we probably should start wrapping things up. Is there anything else anyone else would like to add? Great. Well, thank you guys so much for this evening. Thank you so much, Mr. Gomez. I wish you guys all the best in your coming upcoming months and for the rest of the year, and the best luck to everything. Thank you so much again, Mr. Gomez.
Thank you so much.
Have a good evening, everyone, and please make sure you tune in next week on Monday. We have a fantastic session, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys there again. Enjoy. Thank you again.